So for relicing the plastic white parts, I'm just using Angelus brown leather dye. There's a whole bunch of ways you can relic white plastic parts, and I've tried them all. And I think this is the quickest way to do it. You might think that dye won't stick to plastic, and you're partially right. It sticks pretty good. It's really hard to rub it off. So this Angelus dye is actually interesting because it's got some red oxblood hue to it, and it makes it really unique. So it is brown, but what it does to the white is pretty interesting. Let's check it out. So I wouldn't necessarily call these brown. So I mean, what would you call that in terms of a color? It's not brown. It's like a khaki, like a taupe. And again, it's really hard to really rub this off. It's not going to come off very easily. You could just, at this point, stop and put it back on your guitar and you're going to be good. You'll get some nice wear. Even if you do wear some of this out, it's going to look good. Super easy to dunk this into the Angelus dye bottle. I just dunked it in. If there are any like scratches or abrasions on the plastic, they'll get darker, just like this one here. But look at that. It's not white anymore. Same thing with the switch tip. You can get various degrees of brown. Pickguard and the pickup covers came out really nice. You can't really dunk these, right? So you have to like wipe them on, wipe them off. They look great. And I went for, instead of a kind of solid color or solid tint, I went with sort of this gradient. So it's much whiter in the middle center here, which is what you see a lot. And it's darker along the edges and it kind of feathers out. And you can play with the feathering. You can kind of get soft and dark and feather things in. You can play with it. It's like a time to be artistic. Now this might be a little bit dirty, but I'm going to keep it. I like kind of this dirty look. So the only bits that we didn't use the acid to strip the chrome away from are the saddles. And that's because if we remove the grub screws and the screws, those threads for both the screws and the grub screws are not plated or coated. And if you allow this to be exposed to acid, those were the first things to kind of get eaten away. And I know that from experience. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do this the old-fashioned way. We're going to sand off the plating off the top and the sides. And then we're going to just try to use the Birchwood Casey's brass black on it. This didn't turn out exactly the way I thought it would. I was trying to get this brass black to, well, blacken the brass. So So I'm either wrong about the material of the saddle being brass, or it just didn't work. But that's okay, because these unexpected results were kind of also really cool. And there's quite a bit of color variation. So you see a little bit of the brass, which has got almost a purplish reddish hue. You see the black, and then you see kind of like the bare metal. But there's nothing shiny, really. It's all kind of matte. Now for these guys, I dunked these in the solution of brass black. So this has that dull, almost grayish patina to it, which is what we're looking for. So just to kind of show you what the original one looks like. It comes out of the brass black solution, well, black. And this is actually not terrible. That looks pretty cool. But you can kind of burnish it a little bit, and then it goes to that sort of patinaed look. And it's not shiny. It's not the high gloss shine. And you can kind of do probably something in between these two. And so to me, that it looks like, an aged screw right there. This looks black, but just hitting it and rubbing it with that 5000 grit gets it to this point. And just kind of hit the threads. Now that black, look at this. This looks pretty aged to me. So that's kind of a hit. Now the springs are a little harder to do, but you can also kind of twirl them around within the sandpaper. These are the grub screws for the saddle height. But then you don't have to really worry about them because they're going to be mostly hidden. You can see I worked on this one, got rid of a lot of the black. It's no longer high gloss. It looks semi-aged. I'm pretty happy with this method. These pickups are not very good. They just have the cheapest magnet with these non-magnetic pull pieces, but everything else is fine. We can reuse the bobbins and the actual enamel-coated copper wire. Alright, so these poles have been removed from the plastic bobbins. They were non-magnetic. They had a cheap ceramic rectangular magnet on the bottom of each of them. Break the magnet, push out the poles, and now we're going to replace them with Alnico 5s. These Alnico 5 poles cost 89 cents each. So very simple upgrade. Take these really cheap ceramic pickups and upgrade them to Alnico 5. And that's all we're going to do. Now the interesting thing about these made in China bobbins is that the cylindrical shaft for each of those poles is plastic. So you never see exposed wire inside there. You just slide them out and slide new ones in. So let's give it a shot. Alright, so I just cut these little bits out on the laser. They are the exact same size as those magnets, the ceramic magnets I took out. And they're going to fit right into that little ledge, just like that, perfectly. So the relic job on the body is 100% complete. We can talk a little bit about what we've done so far, and we'll start with the plastic bits. All I did was use the Angelus leather dye, and it's got a little bit of reddish and amber hue to it, so it doesn't just add a brown tint, it does something unique to the plastic bits. And so these were pristine white, and now they have this really kind of patina to them that just looks fabulous. Now for the actual pickguard, I think if I could do one thing differently, I did scuff it up with some Scotch-Brite pads, like the 3M stuff. I wish I hadn't done that. So when you do add the tint to the pickguard, it does get in those scratches. And that can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. So I think next time I would just peel the protective wrapping on it, and then I would just go straight to the dye. And I think you'd get a more diffused patina that way. So when I look at this relic job, I don't see a traditional relic job. It doesn't look like it's been played in a bar for 50 years, right? This looks different, and it's unique in that way. So the next thing I focused on was relicing the hardware. The issue with this hardware, things like the back plate and the bridge plate and the strap buttons and the jack plate, is that they're made out of brass. And I'm assuming that it is a chrome plated brass. That was my assumption going in. Now it's very hard to relic chrome plated hardware. And what you can do is kind of bang it up, scuff it up a little bit, and then use muriatic acid fumes to try to get a nice little patina in those banged up areas. And that's cool, that works. What I did is I just dunked them. So I dunked pretty much everything except the saddles. So the really interesting thing is, because it strips the brass, so when I put things like the neck screws and the string trees and such, they all kind of got that brass look to them, which is super cool. So these pickguard screws here have this almost patinaed brass color, and they just look fabulous. Now, I also experimented with the brass black, and I did that for the bits like the springs and the saddle intonation screws and the bridge screws and the bit of the actual jack that sticks out of the jack plate. I dunked that into the brass black as well. And they came out awesome. They get, darker, and then you can kind of scuff them up a little bit to get the little shine in the high spots, and it just looks great. Now, I also replaced the pickup poles. So the original slugs in these pickups were just non-magnetic slugs, and they have a ceramic magnet on the bottom, and they're just kind of cheap sounding. So we basically transformed these ceramic pickups into Alnico 5 pickups. And all we did was break that magnet and slide the slugs out. And then I bought Alnico 5 poles, and they cost 89 cents each. So pretty quick way of upgrading these to Alnico 5 pickups. We keep the bobbins. They're plastic bobbins, right? They're not fiberboard bobbins, and it's not like the material of the bobbin impacts the tone in any way. And we kept the wrapping, so we didn't have to wrap anything. And before installing them, I ensured that they were south up for the neck and the bridge, and north up for the reverse wound middle pickup. That's where we're at. I think it's looking really good. And as soon as you start to add in the dark fretboard neck, it really starts tying everything in together. And I can't wait to play it. I just can't wait. So anyway, we're going to stop here. Thanks for watching, and take it easy.